What is an order for sale in the UK and can you stop it? A charging order and an order for sale are not the same thing, and the difference is your home. A charging order secures a debt against your property. If you sell, the creditor gets paid out of the proceeds. On its own, it does not make you sell, and it does not put a date in the diary. An order for sale is a second separate court claim, brought after a final charging order, asking the court to force the sale. It has its own procedure, its own thresholds, and its own deadlines. And it can be defended. Most people who search for this are somewhere between the two. That is a much better place to be standing than it feels. Quick answer. An order for sale is a separate court claim that can force the sale of a property after a debt has already been secured by a final charging order. It is not automatic. A creditor has to apply to the court, and you should be given the chance to respond before the court decides what happens. The court can look at the size of the debt, whether payments are affordable, who lives in the property, any hardship that would be caused, and whether the debt could be dealt with another way. There are also important limits. Some Consumer Credit Act debts must be over £1,000 before this type of claim can be made. And some instalment judgments may give protection if you're up to date with payments. How an order for sale follows a charging order. An order for sale is the enforcement step that can turn a secured debt into an actual sale. The sequence normally runs like this. A creditor gets a county court judgment or a liability order. It then applies for a charging order, which is registered against your property. First as an interim order and then as a final order. Citizens Advice explains that if your creditor gets a final charging order, that does not mean you will have to sell your property. If the creditor wants to force a sale, it has to apply to the court for a further order called an order for sale. The rules for enforcing a charging order by sale are in Civil Procedure Rule 73.10c and Practice Direction 73. The court may order the sale of the property to enforce a charging order. The claimant must use the Part 8 procedure, and a copy of the charging order must be filed with the claim form. Because it is a separate claim, an order for sale is far less common than a charging order. It costs the creditor money, it takes time, and it can be resisted. Do not read a charging order as a sale notice. Who can apply for an order for sale? Shelter Legal sets out that a claim for an order for sale can be brought by 4 parties. A creditor enforcing a charging order, a trustee in bankruptcy, a mortgage lender who is unable to bring possession proceedings under Part 55 of the Civil Procedure Rules, and a homeowner, where a joint owner or mortgage lender does not consent to a sale. That last one surprises people. An order for sale is not only a weapon used against you, it can also be the route used by a co-owner who wants out of a jointly owned property. Which of these applies matters, because the test the court applies is different depending on who is asking and why. A creditor enforcing a charging order faces one analysis, a trustee in bankruptcy faces another, and it is much harder to resist after the first year. The thresholds. When a creditor cannot get an order for sale, there are limits, and they are worth checking carefully because they are conditional rather than general. Consumer Credit Act debts under £1,000. Shelter Legal states that a claim for an order for sale to enforce a debt regulated by the Consumer Credit Act 1974 can only be issued where the debt exceeds £1,000, and that there is no financial threshold for enforcing other debts by order for sale. Citizens Advice puts the same point from the consumer side. A creditor cannot get an order for sale if you owe less than £1,000, including any court costs, and your debt is covered by the Consumer Credit Act. Instalment judgments made on or after the 1st of October 2012. Citizens Advice states that a creditor cannot get an order for sale if the county court judgment was made on or after that date. You are asked to pay in instalments, and you are up to date with your payments. This is the protection people most often have available and least often use. Keeping to the instalments is the defense. Bankruptcy has its own low-value threshold. Shelter Legal notes that an order for sale must not be made where the net value of the bankrupt's interest in the property is below a set threshold, currently £1,000, and that the trustee has 3 years from the date of the bankruptcy to make a claim for an order for sale. 2 points to be clear about. First, none of these thresholds apply to council tax liability order debts or other non-Consumer Credit Act debts in the same way. So do not assume a £1,000 floor everywhere. Second, the Limitation Act 1980 does not apply to the enforcement of court orders, which means charging orders do not become statute barred, and a claim for an order for sale can be made at any time. The 6-year rule people rely on elsewhere does not rescue you here. The procedure and the 14-day deadline that decides everything. This is the part of the process where readers lose ground without realizing it. The claimant must complete and submit a claim on Form N208. The claim is issued by the defendant's nearest county court hearing centre, and Part 8 of the Civil Procedure Rules applies. The particulars of claim must include a copy of the charging order or other evidence of the claimant's financial interest, the sum of the outstanding debt, details of any prior charges on the property, the estimated sale price, and a witness statement setting out who is in possession of the property. Your side of it works like this. The claim pack contains an acknowledgement of service. A defendant who wants to oppose the order for sale should both file the acknowledgement of service with the court within 14 days of the date of service and serve a copy on the claimant. The acknowledgement of service is where you state the grounds on which you contest the claim, including a witness statement and a financial statement if you're proposing payments. Contesting the claim includes asking for the order for sale to be postponed or suspended. Shelter Legal is blunt about the consequence of missing it. A defendant who fails to file and serve an acknowledgement of service can attend the hearing, but may be denied permission to put forward a defence. A hearing will be scheduled either way. One more thing that catches people out. The court will not consider whether you are liable for the debt at this hearing. If you want to dispute the underlying debt, that is a separate application about the judgment itself, not a defence to the sale. What the court actually weighs up. There is a test, and it is more balanced than people expect. Shelter Legal states that the court is likely to order a sale unless the debt can be paid in a reasonable length of time, or the hardship caused would be disproportionate to the size of the debt and the circumstances of the creditor. It also notes that all defences available against the making of a charging order also apply, and that where there is no reasonable prospect of a purchase completing, there is no justification for postponing the claimant's possession of the property. Citizens' Advice describes the same balancing exercise from the consumer angle. The court weighs the interest of your family against the creditor's interest in being paid. It looks at how much equity is available, the reasons the home was bought, the well-being of any children, and whether there are alternative ways for the debt to be paid, such as an installment order, an administration order, or an attachment of earnings. Citizens' Advice also advises that all joint owners and a spouse with a beneficial interest should attend the hearing. So a strong response usually has three parts: an evidenced offer of payment, a clear account of the hardship a sale would cause, and a reason why sale is disproportionate to the size of the debt, joint ownership, and where the debt is only in one name. This is where many of these claims are actually won and lost. If the charging order was made against only one of two or more joint owners, the court should consider additional provisions in the Trusts of Land and Appointment of Trustees Act 1996, and the additional considerations include the circumstances in which the charging order was created. Section 15 of that Act sets out what the court has regard to when deciding an application: the intentions of the person or persons who created the trust, the purposes for which the property subject to the trust is held, the welfare of any minor who occupies or might reasonably be expected to occupy any land subject to the trust as their home, and the interests of any secured creditor of any beneficiary. The welfare of a child living in the property is therefore a factor the court must have regard to. That is not the same as a veto, and it is not a promise that a sale will be refused, but it is a real consideration, and it should be evidenced properly rather than mentioned in passing. Citizens' Advice makes the practical point that a creditor pursuing a sale where the property is jointly owned, but the debt is in one name only, has a harder job, and that everyone with an interest should attend the hearing. Bankruptcy is a different test, and the first year matters. If the person applying is a trustee in bankruptcy rather than a creditor with a charging order, the framework changes. Section 335A of the Insolvency Act 1986 applies where the property includes a dwelling house that is or was the home of the bankrupt, or the bankrupt's spouse or former spouse. The court must make such order as it thinks just and reasonable, having regard to the interests of the bankrupt's creditors, the conduct of the spouse or civil partner so far as contributing to the bankruptcy, the needs and financial resources of the spouse or civil partner, the needs of any children, and all the circumstances of the case other than the needs of the bankrupt. Then comes the provision that changes the calculation entirely. Where the application is made more than 1 year after the estate first vested in the trustee, the court shall assume, unless the circumstances of the case are exceptional, that the interests of the bankrupt's creditors outweigh all other considerations. In plain English, in the first year, the court balances everything. After a year, the starting point is that creditors win, unless the situation is genuinely exceptional. Shelter Legal also notes that the trustee has 3 years from the date of the bankruptcy to make a claim for an order for sale. If bankruptcy is the route your case is on, this is a timeline that matters, and it is worth getting help from a licensed insolvency practitioner or a solicitor early, rather than late. How to reduce the risk before it gets this far? The best defense to an order for sale is usually built at the charging order stage. Object properly to a charging order and make an offer. Where a debtor objects to a charging order and offers payment with a financial statement attached, a court order setting payments prevents enforcement by order for sale. It also stops statutory interest being added where applicable. Ask for conditions to be attached. A charging order can be made subject to conditions as to when the charge becomes enforceable. A worked example is a condition that the charge cannot be enforced provided the defendant maintains agreed installments. Keep installments up to date. Where a judgment made on or after the 1st of October 2012 required installments and you are up to date, the creditor cannot get an order for sale. Apply to vary an existing charging order. Anyone with an interest in the property can apply to vary a charging order on Form N244 to the court that made it, with a witness statement and a financial statement. Court fees change, so check the current fee and the help with fees route, rather than relying on a figure you read online. Deal with the underlying judgment if it is wrong. If you should never have had the judgment, that is a separate application to set it aside, and it needs to happen quickly if an order for sale is made. An order for sale is not the same as being evicted that week, and there are still steps. If the order for sale is granted, the court has discretion to make an order, giving a date for possession at the same time, so that the property can be sold with vacant possession. The defendant can ask the court to attach conditions, including a postponement of the date for possession and sale until a specified future date, or a suspension of the order on terms. Once the date for possession has passed, the claimant may apply for a warrant or writ of possession. The court may suspend the warrant on payment terms or until a specified date. The application to suspend is made on Form N244 with a witness statement filed at the court. The practical timeline from the consumer side. If an order is made and is not suspended, you would normally have 28 days to pay or to leave the property, after which the creditor can apply for a warrant of possession. The order also directs how the money is applied. The proceeds pay the cost of sale first, then any prior charges such as your mortgage, then the amount due under the charging order, with any balance going to you, or where there is a joint owner, to that owner's share. Where to get free help. An order for sale is a court claim about your home, so this is a point where free specialist help is worth taking. Citizens Advice specifically says that if your creditor tries to get a charging order or an order for sale, you should contact your nearest Citizens Advice for help. Shelter National Debtline and Money Helper also cover this ground. And where bankruptcy is involved, a licensed insolvency practitioner or a solicitor is the right person to speak to. Mistakes that make an order for sale more likely. Ignoring the charging order stage. Objecting and offering payment with a financial statement is often the point where enforcement by sale can be challenged early. Missing the 14-day acknowledgement of service deadline. You may still be able to attend the hearing, but missing the deadline can make it harder to put your position forward. Letting installments slip. If your judgment was made on or after the 1st of October 2012 and you were ordered to pay by installments, staying up to date can be important protection. Turning up without figures. The court may look at whether the debt can be paid in a reasonable time, so your budget and payment offer matter. Only one joint owner attending. All joint owners and a spouse with a beneficial interest should attend. Arguing about liability at the wrong hearing. The order for sale hearing is not usually where the court decides whether you owe the original debt, assuming the 6-year rule protects you. The Limitation Act does not apply to enforcement of court orders, so do not rely on the debt becoming statute barred at this stage. Relying on a suspended order and then missing a payment. If an order is suspended on terms, missing those terms can lead to further enforcement. Frequently asked questions. Does a charging order mean I have to sell my home? No. Forcing a sale requires a separate claim for an order for sale. How much do I have to owe before a creditor can force a sale? A Consumer Credit Act regulated debt must exceed £1,000. There is no financial threshold for other debts. Can they force a sale if I am paying my installments? No. If the judgment was made on or after the 1st of October 2012, you were asked to pay in installments and you are up to date. What is the deadline once I receive the claim? File the acknowledgement of service within 14 days of service and serve a copy on the claimant. Will the court consider whether I actually owe the money? No. Disputing the debt means dealing with the underlying judgment separately. Does having children stop a sale? Not by itself. The welfare of a child is a factor the court has regard to. It is a consideration, not a bar. Can I ask the court to delay the sale? Yes. You can ask the court to postpone the date for possession and sale or to suspend the order on terms. Does a charging order expire? No. The Limitation Act does not apply. Charging orders do not become statute barred. The Real Debt Guy's final thoughts. The words order for sale do a lot of damage before anything has actually happened. People read a charging order, hear the phrase somewhere, and start planning to lose their home. The reality is procedural. A creditor has to bring a fresh claim, pay for it, and persuade a court that a sale is proportionate when the alternative is a payment arrangement it could have accepted. Your job is to make that second thing look like the sensible option in writing, with figures, before the deadline. Which is why the unglamorous parts matter most. Object at the charging order stage. Keep installments current. File the acknowledgement of service inside 14 days. Take a financial statement you would be willing to be questioned on. Make sure every person with an interest in the property is in the room. And if bankruptcy is the route your case is on, do not let the first year drift. That is the window where the court balances everything. And after it, the assumption shifts. For a full breakdown, community support, and the guides that go alongside this one, join us at therealdebtguy.com/join-our-community. This is general information and education only, not personal financial advice. The Real Debt Guy is not FCA regulated.